Hey, do not make that face at me, Carly. Okay.
Trust me, it was the face I was making too.
I am sure it was, and I hate both of you for it.
Okay.
I don't hate.
We love you.
Okay. So while his scene was a short one, there's no denying the lasting impression that it had on me. Like obviously I love Davos Seaworth. Like, there is no question. If I could get his name tattooed on me without regretting it, I probably would. But at this point, I really don't want to have any ties to Game of Thrones. Because, like, I'm pretty upset. So, look, I literally gave him a freaking segment on my podcast so that people would understand a little bit of why I love him so much. So, yes, his scene. Finding out that Stannis has most likely lost, and then learning of Shireen's death. That little, like, downcast look. I think that actually broke me more than anything else in this episode did. Since we've been introduced to this character, he has believed in Stannis Baratheon. He has known that while Stannis could be harsh even, he always did what was right. He, for all intents and purposes, was an honorable man and would have made an honorable king. The problem is that Davos didn't know the extent to which Melisandre had dug her nails into his king's neck. And so to learn of Shireen's death through Melisandre, like, I bet that broke him as much as it did break me. The fact is, other than after Blackwater, we really haven't seen Davos without Stannis, and now we've got no choice but to. Right. Even if Stannis isn't dead, and I will cling onto that belief until a body is revealed, and even then I probably still won't believe it. Like, let's not go crazy here. I highly doubt that Stannis and Davos will be reunited anytime soon, and so now it's Davos' turn to take the spotlight. Like, there's no denying that plenty of characters were cut out to pave a way for more to enter, as I said was going to happen at the end of the season. But Davos is going to have a lot more to deal with next season. Yeah. The death of Jon, the possible death of Stannis. Possible.
And possible death of Jon.
Yeah, possible. Dealing with Melisandre, getting away from the Wall. And all I'll say is that I think his journey is going to be one of the utmost importance, especially if it follows the books at all. Kyle, you know what I'm talking about.
Listen, I am just waiting for my man to make an appearance. My man named Wyman Manderly. I need some Wyman Manderly in my life.
Do you really?
Next season, man. Next season is the season of Manderly.
Not the season of Greyjoy, it's the season of Manderly.
No, season Wyman of Manderly.
Wyman Manderly is who Davos is sent to talk to. In the books, he lives at White Harbor. And he is sent. Davos is sent by Stannis to go and get support.
Okay.
So that's all you need to know. It's way more important than that.
You also need to know that he's so fat he can't even sit on his throne. Which is, we are headed towards the season of Manderly.
I really hope so. So, okay, Carly, I'm putting you slightly on the spot here.
Right.
But mostly that's because I know you can handle it.
Totally.
Obviously, Kyle loves Davos, and much of that has to do with me forcing him into it. But where do you stand on him?
I think I just wrote this down, actually, as you were talking. But I truly feel it. I feel really bad for him because I feel like the reason he even chose to be like, okay, I'm going to leave Stannis behind, is because he had faith in the fact that Stannis was enough of his own man and enough of his own leader, too, to not make the bad choice that he did. And I feel like Davos...
I'm good.
You're all right? You okay? There's tears in your eyes. But besides that, I feel like Davos finding out that Shireen is dead, not only is there the impact of her death, there's the impact of the fact that Stannis made that decision.
Yeah.
Because Davos has, up until now, followed Stannis. That's been his thing. And I truly do feel like the reason he left so willingly... I feel like he had the idea that, yes, this is a possibility that Shireen might not make it through this, but I don't think he thought Stannis was going to do it.
Yeah.
The fact that he found out that not only did Stannis do it, but it was a heartbreaking scene because it was just bad.
It was really bad. It was some subtle acting on Liam Cunningham's part, but, like, really, that was a scene that broke me. I don't know. Kyle, where do you stand?
I certainly don't have the same emotional attachment that you do, although I am a huge fan of Davos.
He is. Wasn't he in your top 10?
Certainly,
Yeah.
I love Davos.
Awesome.
You've converted me to Davos the
I
same
really
way that
did.
Melisandre converted Stannis to the Lord of Light.
Oh,
I'm gonna take that, and I'm gonna accept it.
Roll with it.
I'm upset, but I'm gonna accept it.
Roll
Okay.
with it.
Well, I appreciate your acceptance.
Thank you.
I mean that again. It's a small scene in a big episode, but I agree that is. I love that performance by Liam Cunningham, and I think he's great in every scene. I also love the performance by Stephen Delane as Stannis. I think that those two, as an acting
Stephen
duo,
Delane.
I'm going to really miss.
I'm
I
gonna
love
miss
their
that
scenes
so
together.
much.
It was a good dynamic.
Because even though I keep denying it, we know Stannis is dead.
Yeah.
But
Stannis is
I
dead.
will keep denying it.
But it just there's just a level of like understated acting that I really appreciate from
Yeah.
both those two, and just seeing Stannis or seeing Davos react to Shireen's learning of Shireen's death, and that everything that he ever believed in is now gone, is and not in like a big overstated weepy way. You know, he didn't run to his room and close the door.
Nope, he just
and it's
accepted it. He
was a
internalized
good little
it.
moment.
Yeah, it was great, and I really do think that we're going to see more of Davos, and I think that he's going to sort of take the place of Stannis, not the character wise, but just like as much time as we spent on Stannis, we're going to start spending a little more time on Davos. That's what I hope.
Yeah.
That's what I really hope, because he is an incredibly important character in the books. I mean, George R. R. Martin chose him as a point of view character for a reason, and I think that hopefully that's going to shine through next season.
Yeah.
Okay. Cool. The Davos talk over. I really wanted to just talk about that a little bit, because like he's so important to me, and that scene really did affect me more than anything else in this episode.
That was a big scene.
It really was. Okay, so we're gonna dive right into the showdown now, because honestly, like the subject matter is one that I feel quite angry about and would rather leave the podcast, and I would rather leave like a podcast on a happy note, and that's I guess why we're going to talk about Jon Snow theories later on. Plus the theory of the week is like a ton more, like it's more theories than just a theory. And the showdown won't take that long. So let's talk about Dorne. Carly,
Really?
We're talking about Dorne. Carly, I know you're still reading the books, and I'm going to try not to give anything away, and Kyle, you will too. But we
Nope,
essentially,
I don't agree.
but essentially, we know that Dorne is essentially like literally a crap pile space filler in Game of Thrones.
Nope.
The thing is, in the A Song of Ice and Fire book series, it's not. While it took up a majority of book 4, it was also the most interesting plotline because of the point of view character introduced and her incredible prowess. So I'm sort of going to get into it right now. So, this was actually posed by a Tumblr user, who I don't know the name of. Sorry, I'm really sorry, Tumblr user. But essentially, I'm going to just read word for word, because this person put it out so perfectly that I'm just going to read it word for word. The real tragedy of the book-to-show conversion is that the Sand Snakes actually wanted to crown Myrcella, not kill her. Okay, so if you understand this correctly, Dorne is a kingdom that treats women as if they're equals, which is something I don't think you get from the book at all. Or from the show. Sorry,
Okay.
Not the show. God, Jesus. From the show. I feel like you don't get that.
No.
Women inherit lands and titles there. In fact, Duran actually has a daughter, which is not said in the show at all. Her name is Arianne. And she leads the Sand Snakes in this plot. It's not Ilaria. Ilaria doesn't even matter in terms of the book. She was there. She's not there anymore. Oh, and Arianne is the crown princess of Dorne. Trystane doesn't matter at all. Trystane is just like, who gives a shit? Who gives a shit about Trystane? No one. So essentially the crown, the Sand Snakes and Arianne Martell, more importantly, want to crown Myrcella, because according to the Dornish law, she should have rightfully become the next ruler of Westeros instead of Tommen. Their revenge on King's Landing isn't to kill another Lannister. It's literally to create a civil war against patriarchy. It's to make the Lannisters choose a side. So by erasing Arianne and making the Sand Snake's entire plot revolve around wanting to kill an innocent girl, the show destroyed one of the best plot lines and kingdoms in the book. They erased one of the best characters, not even female characters, one of the best characters in the book series, Arianne Martell. They replaced her with Ilaria Sand, who literally just acted through a revenge plot.
Yep. 100%. That was all she was meant for.
Exactly. So is that shocking to you?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah. I did not know that about.
See, okay, so Kyle, I feel like when you and I heard Dorne was going to be in season 5, we were so excited because of this, right?
Correct.
And Duran, obviously, Duran's awesome. Like, no question about Duran being awesome because he birthed Arianne Martell.
Yeah.
Yes.
Well, not birthed. He did not.
The casting news early that she wasn't going to be a character.
Right. And you and I talked about it.
The story was going to be picked up by someone else.
Right. And you and I talked about it when they announced the casting. We were like, "Oh, wow, they didn't announce Arianne Martell. They didn't announce Aerys Oakhart. They announced Alaria. Alaria had already been cast. They announced the Sand Snakes." So, we were already there were huge question marks over our heads about this, but like it's so angering to me because it's so, like, that in the books is so important.
Yeah.
Well, I think you hit on the real important thing, which is that they could have still told the same story without Arianne. As big of a loss as she is, they still could have had a story where the Sand Snake's goal was to basically bring Myrcella to power, to crown Myrcella as a way to create division in the Lannister family. Because who's Cersei going to support? If Myrcella is crowned king, is she going to support dummy Tommen, or is she going to support her eldest daughter? And that's a tough call for her. And that would have been a much more subtle and clever plan for the Sand Snakes, and made them more respectable as characters, as opposed to just sort of vengeance machines.
Yeah.
And it would have given the whole thing a lot more depth. It would have made Doran's role more interesting, because he would have been trying to prevent things on a political level, as opposed to just trying to stop a very bland and poorly put together assassination plot that occurred, like, in public in the Water Garden, apparently. Yeah. So, it just, everything about Dorne was butchered this season, and there were about 10 points in which they could have salvaged it, and they didn't salvage it at any of them.
I feel like they just looked at it and they were like, well, this is a waste of time to fix. Let's just forget about it. Let's just pretend no one notices how bad it is. Let's just keep going. Because, God, it would have been so cool. I mean, you're right. Arianne did not need to be in it. All they needed to do was give the Sand Snakes her storyline, and Alaria Stan her storyline. And instead, they killed off Myrcella.
Yeah. I just think I think this might, and I have no idea, I'm just speculating, this might have been a function of the way that Game of Thrones shoots its seasons, because this isn't like a network show where you shoot like 5 episodes in advance. This is a show where there's 3 locations in different parts of the world, and they all shoot, and then they have to edit it afterwards.
Right, so maybe it made sense in terms of when they were shooting it.
Right.
Yes, what I think happened is they shot all 10 episodes, they got back together, and they realized, like, holy crap, we have terrible footage from Spain. Like, this is terrible. Yeah. And we can't do anything about it because it's too big of a story to just flat out cut. And we announced all this casting news. And so we've just got to try to make lemonade and do the best we can. But this is, I can't imagine, given the normal quality of Game of Thrones, I can't imagine they thought that this was good when they saw it. And they just had to go with it because they had no other option.
Absolutely. And I'm hoping maybe that they'll realize their mistake and they'll, like, not kill Myrcella, because we didn't see her die. So maybe they're going to be like, retcon. Like,
that's the theme of this episode. It's just like, we didn't see it happen.
Right, we didn't see it happen, so maybe it didn't. No, I think that they realized their mistake, and I'm really hoping that they're going to learn from it, because Dorne was so bad, and in the books, Dorne is so cool.
Well, they could also just sort of fast forward to the point where Dorne is ready to, like, march on King's Landing. Yeah. Because I feel like anytime you've got, like, big wars and armies involved, all of the stuff that was wrong with Dorne is kind of washed away, especially if they actually get out of the Water Gardens.
So, maybe, if they ever do.
Yeah, so if Dorne is ready to, like, march and we can, like, just get out of there, I feel like we'll be okay with Dorne. So hopefully that happens.
Hopefully. Okay, so there's the showdown. I don't know if we have anything else to say. Carly, I feel like you're very surprised, because it's a lot. It's a lot of information, but you have that to look forward to when you're reading.
Yeah, I mean, I guess it's a lot more to look forward to than I got out of this season with Dorne.
Dorne is actually pretty cool, because Arianne Martell is awesome, and the Sand Snakes don't matter as much.
Oh, thank God.
Okay, so if that's all we have to say for the showdown, let's move on to the A Song of Ice and Fire theories, which are also the Game of Thrones theories. And obviously, there's only one topic we could talk about.
Oh, yeah.
That of Jon Snow.
He knows nothing.
He knows nothing. You know him quite well. His name is Jon Snow. Maybe Targaryen. Okay, so Jon Snow is dead. For now. Although the show is really doubling down on the fact that he isn't coming back, we all know this could be throwing us for a loop. Granted, I hope we're not grasping at straws because there are so many theories as to how he'll come back. I'm not quite sure we'll have time to get through them all, but we're gonna damn well try. So let's get into it. Obviously, and this is when you sort of... Yeah, Kyle?
Wait, I don't think we should get to them all. I think we should each take turns and say what our theory is. I think that's what
That's what we were doing.
I mean, yeah, that's what we were doing. All right,
okay.
sweet.
We're doing that.
I'm just going to read your list of theories.
I mean, I was going to, Kyle. I was gonna give you the option to read yours.
I don't want options.
I'll go first.
All right, Carly, you go. God, you guys are taking me off script.
I will go. All right,
sweet.
We're doing it. So, all right. It's gonna sound like a cop-out theory because it is the easiest one to go with, but it is my favorite. My favorite theory is the fact that Melisandre, because she is back at the Wall, is going to have something to do with it. Because I mean, it's not even just the fact that she, is a Red Priestess, and we've known that the Red Priest and Red Priestesses have the ability to bring back the dead. It's also the fact that, I mean, it would be so symbolic. Like, if Jon Snow is truly a Targaryen, to see him come back through some kind of imagery of fire and, like, blood sacrifice,
yep.
it would just be so perfect. And it would really pay off this whole, 5-season-long theory of, is he a Targaryen? Long-running book theory of whether or not he's a Targaryen. It would pay it off so well. It would, both visually and just in theory. And I just really like the idea. And I feel like they really went through a lot of trouble to be like, listen, Melisandre's going back to the Wall.
Right.
Like, she's just there. And they really built up, like, her and Jon Snow having this weird connection that they never returned to in the whole series, in the whole season. They had this weird, like, couple of episodes where she was kind of like, Melisandre flirting with him or whatever. And I mean...
Touch my boob.
Touch my boob. They did that, though, and it was like, why is she doing this? And they did a lot of that with Jon Snow this season, and I feel like it's got to be leading to something, so...
No, okay, let's flesh out your theory a little
yes,
bit. Okay,
please.
So, obviously, this is one that makes sense if the R plus L equals J theory is
right.
canon to the showrunners, which
right.
I don't think anybody is arguing against. So, because they went to so many lengths to prove it, I refuse to believe it's not real.
It's my favorite theory.
I agree. So, essentially, after someone dies in the Night's Watch, you've got to burn the body. Otherwise, they're going to come back as a white, and no one wants a white Jon running around. I mean, I would love to see that. No,
I'd be alright with it.
But his eyes did change color at the end of this episode. They got lighter. So, obviously, the Brothers of the Night's Watch are going to burn Jon's body. Now, let's take a little meander down memory lane all the way back to season 1, shall we?
To Daenerys?
Yes, to Daenerys. Anybody know where I'm going with this? You know where I'm going. Okay, so after Drogo dies, Daenerys gets into the flames with him, and everybody expects her to burn alive, except she doesn't. Instead, she is reborn of sorts.
Reborn of the fire.
Dragons included.
Indeed.
Dragons included.
It's a Targaryen thing.
As we know, Targaryens have some type of fire resistance, and if Jon is a Targaryen, as canon says, well, you all know where this is going. Still, he's dead. I mean dead, as Kit Harington said. So they need to bring him to life somehow, and this is where Melisandre comes into play.
Yes.
So I do think that this theory has some merit. Like, way back in season 1, remember Dany attempts to use blood magic to bring Drogo back to life. It fails, he dies, it's really sad, but that same type of blood magic is what Melisandre uses. So... let's put this all together, throw it in a pot, mix it up. We've got Melisandre, who loves getting her hands all bloody.
And fiery.
We've got fire.
There's
we've got fire
yes.
with the funeral pyre of Jon's burning body. And we've got a dead Stark / Targaryen. I don't know, but I smell something of cooking. So I do like your theory. I totally see the merit in it. Kyle?
Can I pause it? Because I am with you 100% on that.
Yeah?
Awesome.
My question is, to what end? As in, Jon Snow is brought back to life to what end? Is he just going to go on Lord Commandering?
Probably
is
not.
Is he going to kill the Night's Watch brothers who
obviously
killed him?
He's not going to come back as Jon.
No, it's...
Yes.
Well, I will say, too, I read up on this today, and please correct me if I'm wrong, because it was
will.
not one of the things I... Good. I know that oh, gosh. All right, I feel like I'm going to butcher it. The Night's King, I think, something like whenever he comes back, he loses part of himself, or whoever comes back as like a walker or something. They lose part of themselves when they come back. So it's like they come back to
obviously
life,
they totally
but it's
do, yeah.
Oh yeah, like 100%. But I don't know, like I feel like if and or when he comes back, he will not be 100% Jon Snow. But I don't feel like this is his end because it just there's so much potential.
I feel like this is a rebirth of Jon Snow.
Exactly. Well, I feel like this is a rebirth of Jon Targaryen.
Okay.
But what is his role on the show then? Is my question.
That's a very good question.
That's a good question.
I don't know.
Can I unveil my...
Kyle,
yes.
You have been excited to unveil this theory, so let's hear it.
You really covered the first half of it.
Good.
Because I agree with everything that Carly just laid out, which is Melisandre's there for a reason, right? Like, that's not a coincidence.
It could be a red herring, though.
I don't think it's a red herring.
No.
I do think she has red hair, but it's not a red herring.
Oh!
Boo. Sorry.
And I think one of the important things you mentioned is that the corpse has to be burned.
Yep.
And so Melisandre, because when we don't exactly know how Thoros revives Beric, although it apparently involves some kind of spell that he accidentally cast the first time, and then
he was like, I don't know, I said some words, and then it came back to life. I'm not really sure.
It just worked.
Right. What I suspect is going to happen is the men of the Night's Watch will want to burn Jon Snow. None of them really have the stomach for that, but Melisandre definitely does, and so she volunteers. So they know they have to burn the body. Melisandre also is a sneaky blood mage who has just lost everything that she thought was true.
Sneaky blood mage.
Yeah. You sneaky
and so
blood
Melisandre,
mage.
I would suspect, is going to, as she burns Jon Snow, cast a sneaky spell on him that is similar to the one that Thoros cast. The other thing is, the other half of this, is that Melisandre was following Stannis because of this Azor Ahai prophecy, which is that Stannis is the bringer of light, which is
lies. Sorry.
Light bringer, right? And it's been clear for a while now, based on comments made about the sort of lack of authenticity of Lightbringer, that this prophecy was incorrectly applied to Stannis, and now we have definitive proof that it was. Stannis was not the subject of the prophecy,
right?
Which means that Melisandre. But that doesn't mean the prophecy is invalid, it just means Melisandre applied it to the wrong person.
Right. I'm going to disagree with that. I feel like maybe she applied it to the right person to get her closer to Jon Snow.
So maybe she applied it to the wrong person to get her to the right person.
I don't think it was a mistake.
Okay.
I think she...
No, it wasn't a mistake. She's cold and calculating. She knows what she's doing.
She knows exactly what she's doing.
Either way, I mean, that's sort of immaterial in the end, because Melisandre is not a character that we think has pure motives in any case.
Right.
But yes, so she either deviously snuck her way by pretending Stannis was the Lord's instrument, whatever.
He was Azor Ahai reincarnate.
Yes, or Azor Ahai reincarnated. She either pretended that, or she genuinely made a mistake. Either way, we get to the same point, which is. So we've got that, but part of that prophecy, and I think it's been mentioned on the show, although it's gone into a little more detail in the book. It's specifically outlined in the book, is that when Melisandre is way back multiple seasons ago, trying to convince Stannis in the show to burn Gendry, in the book to burn Edric Storm, who is both Robert's bastards. She wants to burn them to awaken a stone dragon. And that's her words, that you will awaken a stone dragon if you give the sacrifice of king's blood. In both cases, Davos thwarts that plan, and it never happens. Davos frees whichever royal bastard's in question, and the prophecy never comes true. Because I would say Stannis Baratheon was a pretender king, the sacrifice of Shireen ended up meaning nothing except some nicer weather.
Yeah,
that is not king's blood. Shireen's blood is not king's blood because Stannis was never a king. Jon Snow, or Jon Targaryen, does have king's blood. Targaryen blood is very much king's blood. And so the theory, which is not my theory, it's a theory that's been on the internet, but I read them all, and this is the one I subscribe to, is that Jon Snow is burned at the foot of the wall in a pyre. This causes two things to happen. The first is that Jon Snow wakes up thanks to Melisandre's blood magic.
I agree.
The second is that the wall shatters and reveals the stone dragon, the ice dragon, has been entombed inside of it.
Oh my god.
And that is equivalent to Daenerys' stone egg shattering. That Jon has... that this dragon, this long dormant dragon that I believe was associated with the Azor Ahai prophecy in the first place, was entombed in the wall. The wall was not designed to keep the White Walkers out. It was
But to keep
tomb
something
of the
in!
dragon.
Oh, shit!
Jon now jumps on the dragon, decimates the Night's Watch. They are of no more. The wall is no more.
Good.
Jon takes the dragon north to become the Night's King and becomes the chief antagonist of the series.
Holy
And the series
shit.
sets up as Daenerys and her dragons
Versus Jon and his!
And his ice dragon!
Kyle.
Oh,
There it
Kyle.
Wow. Okay, I guess I was not reading into the theories enough because holy crap, you've just blown my mind.
I have never
Honestly,
heard that.
if that doesn't happen, I'm gonna be the most disappointed person, like, literally ever. Kyle, you were
Same.
right when you said that this was gonna kill
Thank
me.
you.
You were right.
I'm so glad that it had that reaction, that you didn't spoil the theory from talking about stuff.
No,
Honestly,
that was fantastic.
like, that was incredible. I absolutely, like, my theory, because you guys totally covered two great ones, is not going to be as good.
Sorry.
I can guarantee, well, that's why I wanted you to go last, but it's good. It's good. I think that this is a definite possibility, especially in the books. I feel like definitely in the books this is possible. I don't know that they could do it in the show. I would hope that they could, but I don't know. I mean, it's definitely possible.
I mean, the idea for me is that this whole thing seems like to be an exercise of George R. R. Martin to prove that fairy tales are false.
Yeah.
It's kind of like we're all Sansa, and we're all learning that fairy tales don't exist. And Jon
No,
Snow's
we're all Elizabeth Swann, and we're learning
Yes.
that fairy tales don't exist.
But Jon Snow is the only traditional hero character.
Yeah.
Like, his journey is such a by-the-book, like, textbook hero's journey. And that I feel like that journey ended when his sworn brothers stabbed him. Like,
Absolutely.
that
I mean,
was-
the John that we know is now gone. There's no
Yes.
question. We are now up to where the books was in terms of John's story. So,
Yes.
like, we do, like, whoever the John is that all of us knew, show watchers and book readers alike, he is gone.
Yes. So I think, I just think that he is no longer interested in fighting for the realms of men. He's seen up close and personal the power of the White Walkers,
Yeah.
and that they are going to simply overwhelm everything, because there are only like 5 Valyrian steel swords in Westeros right now, and if you don't have one, you're not killing a White Walker.
Absolutely.
So, or a dragon, I should say. Valyrian steel
A
sword or
stone
a
dragon.
Yeah, there's none of those in Westeros. But, so I think Jon, now with all of his empathy, all of his sort of human emotion removed from the from the process, and also, but with his vengeance, his sense of vengeance and anger intact, since all he was trying to do is save these people who killed him.
Yeah.
I think he switches sides and becomes the big bad of the series.
Damn.
And that
I would
be a
love,
role
that would
fitting-
literally mean a Song of Ice and Fire.
Yeah.
Exactly, and that
Wow.
would be a role fitting to his place in the story. That
Yeah.
he's now. I mean, his story would have meaning, and he would be a ultra significant character, and he would be a more compelling villain than the sort of generic Night's King we have now.
Oh
he
my
would
God.
be the bad guy of the show.
You just
Yeah.
blew my mind.
Well, you know,
Yeah.
I'll add to that too. I mean, he was offered a chance this season to be a Stark rather than a Snow.
Yep.
He was offered that. It's very clear that he doesn't. I mean, he obviously still cares about it. It's still important to him. He wants to be
He says, this
more
is
than-
all I've ever wanted.
exactly.
Yeah.
But he moves beyond it. And so the fact that we can have a plotline with him that is beyond that, because I feel like we've been past that for a while. It's not so much in the earlier seasons. It was very much him trying to, make his own way and to finally be an individual rather than just like, Ned Stark's bastard. And I don't know. I feel like this would be a very, very good character turn for him.
I would love that. That is
Ugh.
literally, if that doesn't happen, at least in the books,
Yeah.
I'm going to be so disappointed. Okay, great. Honestly, Kyle, you sold me. That was the most.
Thank you so much.
That was
the
awesome.
most incredible theory I've gotten, and I'm so glad that this is the finale episode because,
Yeah.
like, holy crap. My theory is literally nothing compared to yours, and I can't believe I have to go next.
I'm so sorry.
Yeah, that was a good theory.
That was incredible. He literally told me earlier today, he's like, I'm gonna blow your mind with this theory.
No, that was
was like-
accurate.
He
I
was
was
like,
pretty confident, I have to say.
that's incredible. A stone dragon, Jon Snow being the antagonist. I
like
love
it.
I mean,
I
that
like
makes
it.
sense. It's a hero's journey turned bad. It totally makes sense. It's
Yeah.
literally Anakin Skywalker.
Oh!
It's like it's,
Oh, that's right.
It's very cool. It's
I like
very
it.
cool. Okay, let me give my theory. which is one that is pretty canon with the books. I don't know if it's canon as much with the show because they don't give as much. Well, it's not canon at all with the show, actually. This one. So let me just say, John's death scene is actually pretty similar to the one in the book, except for one very important thing. His last word, instead of saying "Lil Limp Dick Ollie," Kyle wanted me to say that.
I'm so glad you got that in.
You're so
God. He says ghost.
Oh.
And George R. R. Martin would not have put that in unless he actually meant it. Okay, so all of the Starks, in the books, we see all the Stark kids have special talents. Bran has absolutely showcased this, okay? Arya does so in the books when she dreams about pulling her mother's body out of the water, and Jon has always also had dreams about being a wolf. So it's possible that right before he dies, he wargs into Ghost's body and will continue to live on until somehow maybe Melisandre gets his body back to being able to be used again. And I also think this would harken slightly to Sir Robert Strong and Master Qyburn bringing him back to life in a weird way, like zombie shit. But like that's just one thing that I don't think that that's going to happen in the show. I think it's very possible that could have happened in the books, but I don't think that it's going to in the show because he says Ollie instead of Ghost,
right?
And Ghost is not in the final episode.
I will say too, and I'm going to give 100% credit to Grantland for saying this because I read they had this very comprehensive review of Is Jon Dead, and it was amazing. It like blew my mind. But there was a 2011 interview in Entertainment Weekly with George R. R. Martin, and they asked him, why did you kill Jon Snow? Why did you do this? And he said, quote, "Oh, you think he's dead, do you?"
Yeah.
That was the quote.
Okay.
So it's one of those things where
I don't think George R. R. Martin killed off Jon Snow. It's just a question of whether or not, like the showrunners of Game of Thrones did. D.B. Weiss and Dan Benioff. That's the question. If they chose to actually kill off this character.
And I feel like if they did, it's a sacrifice of so many good plot lines they could have gone with.
Absolutely.
Whether it was him warging into Ghost, whose name is Ghost, by the way.
Yeah,
like,
it would make sense.
Look at that
I think
imagery.
that's what happens in the books. I really do.
Yeah.
I think that's what happens in the books.
Well, that's more alluded to in the books because in the books, I do know this, by the way, about the books. In the books, it is very not even alluded to. It's very specific that Jon does see himself. He sees through Ghost's eyes and stuff like that. It's not touched on in the show, but it is in the books. And so the fact that would appear in the books is not surprising. No. I can totally see that. In the show, I just feel like there's so many different directions they could go with it. And if they simply choose to say, no, he's just dead, not only would it be a sacrifice of so many good directions they could go with it, but it would actually be more of a cop-out than it would be to bring him back.
Cutting corners.
Yes.
Yeah, but I think the reason they're not going to do that, the reason I think the show is going to keep him alive is the scene in, I think, episode 6 when Littlefinger's talking to Sansa, and this was the first of, I think, 3 references to the R plus L equals J theory in that episode. But there's like probably a 45-second to 1-minute conversation, specifically, I mean, if you connect the dots, related to Jon Snow's lineage.
It's about the Battle of Harrenhal, right? It's about the jousting at Harrenhal, right?
Yes, right. That the whole Lyanna Stark history. Like, that scene does not exist for any purpose other than to bring into question who Jon Snow's parents are, essentially. That's the only reason. And as we talked about, the show only has 10 hours to cover all this material.
Right.
And
they chose that.
They're just not going to put something like that in there. They're not going to take any screen time for something that just doesn't go anywhere. Like even even stories like the Beric Dondarrion story where it just sort of went away after a while.
There's a reason that was there.
Yeah.
That has thematic importance later on, as we're seeing right now. But if Jon Snow's parentage, if Jon is dead, none of that R plus L equals J stuff matters at all. And they went so far out of their way to include that in the dialogue this season that I can't imagine the show intends to, regardless of what the book intends to do, I can't imagine the show is intending to write him just off entirely.
I 100% agree, and I think it would also be an amazing merging of several plot lines. I mean, Melisandre's, Jon's, Ned's, Davos, so many plot lines coming together, and I mean, like I said before, the show this season has had a very big theme of alluding to things that maybe haven't happened or have happened in a different way than we would have expected them to.
Yep.
But I do feel like this is one of those things where they've built it up so much. They built up his whole theme with the Night King and what was presumably, oh my god, Targaryen armor,
what?
Valyrian steel? Valyrian steel,
yeah. You got
it. Thank you.
She got there.
They built it up so much. There was so much they built up with Jon Snow that was so strong. And I feel like to end that with just like, no, he's dead, would be bad in the sense that it would destroy like I said, fantastic plot line, but it would also just be upsetting to fans because it was like, it's very misleading in that sense. It's very, it's not manipulative in the sense that adds to anything in the plot. It's just manipulative in the sense that it's another way to add shock value in a very poor way.
Yep, totally. Yeah. All right, sweet. Look at that. Those are a lot of theories, and it's gonna take some time for me to wrap my head around those. But I think that those are really good. Those were really good. Kyle, you blew my mind with that, so I'm still sort of reeling from that.
Yes.
But I think it's time sort of to move on to the beard rating, unless anybody else has anything they'd like to touch on.
This is the moment.
This is a huge moment. We're almost to the end of this episode. So if there's nothing anybody else would like to touch on, now it's time for the beard rating. Are we ready? All right. So,
totally.
Kyle, first off, how would you rate Mother's Mercy?
Oh, man. Leading off, this is so much pressure.
I believe in you.
No pressure.
I suspect I like this episode quite a bit more than you two, based on this conversation. I thought, despite all the shoppiness that you talked about, which I can hardly deny, that there were enough big moments in this episode to make it a really enjoyable finale. I think a lot of that enjoyment comes from my firm belief that Jon Snow isn't dead. If he actually is dead, then I'm retroactively rating this a non-beard.
Yeah.
I think we'll all retroactively.
It'll be a Varys, a clean-shaven face.
Yep.
But assuming that what seems to be abundantly true is true about Jon Snow, then I thought this was a very effective finale that had shock value, but also didn't ruin the story going forward. And so I am going to rate this an 8.0, which, in beard terms, I gotta give it to my man Serial Pharrell's goatee.
Yay, Serial!
Avenged, finally, 5 seasons, Arya, make it happen.
There you go.
Right.
You know what? I love that. I'm so glad you brought Serial back, because he deserved to be mentioned.
He does.
And Arya does mention him, and it's really important. Okay, so Carly, what about your fine self?
I will say that this episode, for me, if Jon Snow comes back, it's a Jon Snow beard, purely because I just really want to believe that they're going to bring him back and they're going to make that decision. And that's the last thing we see in this episode. And so that's what I'm going to give
Totally get it.
Because I have the hope that, yes, they are going to bring him back, that this is not going to be a final scene. And again, not a Jon Snow fangirl, just for the sake of story and how good it would be.
Yep.
Jon Snow beard.
Great.
There you go.
For me, I'm at a bit of an impasse with myself. Overall, this episode really veered from going past the books. Once specific plot points were introduced, we as book readers were sort of able to settle in and prepare ourselves for what was coming, like Cersei's walk or Jon's murder. And maybe that's why this episode left such a bitter taste in my mouth. Maybe that's why Hardhome was so great. Like, for me, Mother's Mercy gave us nothing new, nothing shocking. I mean, hell, the Night's King didn't even reappear, and it seems like D&D, the showrunners, are wavering. Now they've given George R. R. Martin time to complete Book 6, allowing readers to once again get ahead, and I honestly wonder if the two, like the books and the show, will ever become separate entities. Like, honestly, the most heartbreaking point of Mother's Mercy for me was Davos's reaction to Shireen's death, which is, I don't think that was supposed to be the saddest part. So, yeah, this rating is a tough one, but I think I finally came to a rating. A lot of this season, or a lot of this episode for me, and this season entirely, was about background stuff, background characters, and the like. So while Mother's Mercy wasn't great, it was okay. Similar to the beard of Dolores Ed. Hopefully he'll have more to do next season, because he was a great character. He's one that not many people know about, but he's a part of the Battle of Hardhome. He's one of the Brotherhood. Kyle, how do you explain Dolores Ed? He's been there from the beginning.
Yeah, I'm confused.
He's a much more pronounced character in the book than on the show. He's a very dryly sort of fatalistically funny person.
Yes.
In the book.
And in the show, do you remember Hardhome?
Yes.
He's the brother that fights with. He looks at the giant. He's staring at the giant. The giant's like, "What the fuck you looking at?"
Oh, of course.
That's
okay.
Dolores
As long as there's profanity, I remember.
That's Dolores Ed. Okay, so that's sort of what I gave this. I guess it would be like a 7.5.
Yeah.
About he has a great beard, but I don't know. It's okay. It's just okay.
Yeah.
Okay, so I want to do a second beard rating. This time of the season overall.
Oh.
Wow.
Kyle, what would you give season 5 of Game of Thrones now that it is over?
My goodness. The pressure is immense. I feel like a ruling marine. The
Just
sons
like
of the harpy
Danny.
are closing around me.
Here they come.
I'm calling out for my dragon.
Dun.
Instead, he's acting like a cat and just sleeping. so
AKA Drogon.
Yeah, there you go.
Yes, exactly. I thought this was a very good season. I think it got squirrely at the end, particularly the infamous Sansa episode, which we didn't get into, thankfully.
Don't worry, we got into it.
Oh, yeah.
I know you two did, but we didn't need to rehash it here.
No, not at all.
Grateful for that. But so I think it had some bad moments, but overall, and Dorne as a running bad moment.
Dorne. Ugh.
But other than that, I thought overall this is the season that Jon Snow became a star.
Yeah.
Maybe a falling star now, but a star nonetheless. This season brought us. I thought the Daenerys material, because of the injection of Tyrion near the end, became 1,000 times more interesting. I liked what Tyrion had to do. I love any Varys I can get. I thought the Jorah stuff was by and large good, and I just really enjoyed the season. I think, for me, Hardhome is the best episode the show has ever done.
Absolutely.
Yes.
I totally agree.
100%.
I just think that was a AAA action movie in
it was
an
a
hour-long
great
TV
episode.
show on HBO, which was absolutely incredible, breathtaking. I remember watching the episode and, running around my house. I was so excited.
I did the same thing. I jumped up and down.
Yeah,
Ask
exactly.
Blair.
So,
I was live tweeting the episode until that scene started happening, and then I was like, phone is going away.
Yeah.
yes. So in light of all that, there's only one beard I can assign to this season, and it's the beard of a great man. A great man who has passed away
Oh, no.
and who remains
may he
the
rest in
champion
peace.
of my heart, the bold one, Barristan the bold Barristan.
Barristan Selmy. I knew, Kyle. I knew when you said I got it. I was like, I know who he picked as this beard. And I can totally see why.
There was only one choice.
No, only one choice. All right.
Yeah.
So Carly, what about you?
I'm gonna give it a, in my memory, Jorah has kind of a relatively
some
kind of
stubble.
patchy.
Yeah.
Yes. I'm gonna give it that. Because
All right.
I feel like it adds to the sexiness of the season, but at times it's a bit patchy.
And you know what?
Wow.
That's very interesting, because that's sort of why I gave my beard as well.
Oh.
And I'm sure you guys know
Do tell.
my beard. I'm sure you guys know. For me, myself and I, there is really only one choice, and like I said, I'm sure you guys really know who it is. Stannis Baratheon.
Of course.
Because this season started off okay, and then it got beautiful, and then it disappointed me. So boom, season 5 gets a Stannis beard,
Stannis.
and he still isn't dead. I really do think that this season, I do think that Hardhome was absolutely the best episode Game of Thrones has ever done.
Oh.
But I don't think that this was the best season Game of Thrones has ever done. I think a lot of it was, like Dorne, for instance, was very patchy, not great. I think season 2 still is my favorite season of Game of Thrones, oddly enough, and then I think season 4, Hardhome is the best episode, and then I think Watchers on the Wall.
Yeah.
So I really do think that this season, it was okay, but really the defamation of Stannis, really turned me off.
Right.
Really, really turned me off, and that's why I'm giving it a Stannis beard, obviously. And because I don't know, it was disappointing for me the way they dealt with Stannis' character. It was really hard for me to wrap my head around and deal with.
Right, and I will add to that and say that this season, I've said this before. I think I said this last episode I was on. It's had some of the strongest moments, like Hardhome and Dany riding off on Drogon, and it's had some really strong moments. It's been offset by some very weak moments.
Yep.
So it's been a very roller coaster season, and I think that a lot of that has to do with the fact that they are veering from the books.
Yep.
They're
Totally.
figuring that out. But I don't know. We'll see what happens, because this
We
is
will.
the first season that's really happened as drastically as it has.
Absolutely. And that actually sort of segues perfectly into what I want to talk about next, which is like almost the last thing this is the last thing we're going to talk about. I really want to know what the both of you think is going to happen next season and what you would like to see next season. I, for one, absolutely need to see the Greyjoys. Most importantly, I need to see Euron and Victarion, maybe because Victarion is like one of the best point of view characters. I'm pretty sure he's like number 4 on my point of view characters list. Let season 6 give the Greyjoys a good name. Like, let season 6 tell Game of Thrones audiences that the Greyjoys are actually super cool.
Yeah.
And just because Balon sucks doesn't mean the rest of them do. And more than anything, I want Yara/Asha to show up at the Kingsmoot like she does in the books. So, Kyle, I know you know what I'm talking about, but are we on the same page here?
I think we are absolutely going to get Greyjoys in season 6, and I think that they are going to have a bigger role in the conclusion of this show than we maybe anticipate. I feel like there's something's brewing over there that George R.R. wouldn't have devoted so much a book 4 to them if something wasn't happening over there.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
I'll double down on my Jon Snow prediction. I think the big development of the season is that he becomes the bad guy. I think
I love that.
I like it.
That'll reframe a lot of the action that's happening. I also think as part of that, the wall comes down, which will create urgency. And I think I think the season ends with the White Walkers invading. I think that's my prediction, that it happens, and that season 7 is basically a battle season.
I would love that.
Yeah.
I would love that. I would love to see Jon Snow as a villain.
Oh.
I love him as a hero, I really do, but it would be different. And that's what Game of Thrones has always done. They killed off Ned Stark in season 1, right? Like, they've always been different. And obviously the books did that too, but like, like, I think that it would be so cool to see Jon Snow as a villain.
Well, and he's already, by the watch, seen as a villain.
Right.
I mean, he's already made that transition of... he's doing what we as an audience know is the right thing to do. I mean, he's uniting these two groups that have not previously really seen each other as being on the same team. Mm-hmm. He's bringing them together, but by the Night's Watch standards, he's a villain. I mean, it's bad.
Yeah.
So I really like that theory. I think that's a really cool theory. I really want to see it happen. So,
anything else you want to see?
Yes, I do. I want to see more of the Tyrion, Dany team, because you know I am team Dany Tyrion.
Absolutely.
Who is it at this point?
I know, like, the politics of that are just fantastic. They are a fantastic team. Like, just the conversation they have before they're even a team together in, Dany's, like, little...
When they're drinking wine.
Drinking room or whatever. Like, it's just, they have a fantastic way of talking to each other, and he's a very good advisor to her, and they have very similar ambitions, I feel. So I want to see more of that for sure. I really do like the Jon Snow theory, though, that he becomes a villain. So I think a mesh of that would be perfect.
Yeah, absolutely. And I'd also really like to see Davos survive.
Yes.
That would be a great thing. I mean, if we're just saying what we want, I just want to...
Manderley!
And Manderley, I would also love to see John Connington, just in case you guys were wondering.
Sure.
Wow, so that's it for Season 5 of Game of Thrones. And I, like I said, I'm absolutely breathing a sigh of relief. I need time to get back on the Game of Thrones high horse. I need A Song of Ice and Fire book to read. I need more content for this podcast. Anyway, thank you two so much for being here tonight. Like, I had such, a lovely and wonderful time chatting with you guys. Really, this was a perfect sort of ending season podcast. During the break, I will be releasing more episodes here and there, and most of them will probably be me and Kyle reading off lists of our favorite characters and reasonings behind that.
Sure.
So stay tuned, and Carly, obviously, as well. First, though, Carly, tell me, and tell us, how can the listeners find you?
Yes, the listeners can find... Ooh! The wine, man.
The wine is getting
The wine is making me slurry. No, the listeners can find me. I am a writer on the630.com, spelled out. I'm the only female and the only real nerd. And on Twitter... One true nerd of the630.com. And then on Twitter, I am at Chillin5, so CHILLYN 5. And I am actually now a writer on ScreenMag.com as well. So that's a Chicago-based trade magazine, so look for my reviews there.
Moving on up in the world.
Oh, yeah, it's happening. So, yeah. And then right here with
And
Sophia.
then right here with me.
Oh my God.
And then Kyle, what about yourself?
I'm the editor of TVBinges.com, a site about television that Sophia also happens to write for. And you can read all kinds of TV stuff there. We are hosting a binge this month, coming right up.
January.
That will be...
No, July. July.
July? Oh, yeah.
July. In July.
That's
It's
right.
at the
I
end
forgot
of
I got
July.
pushed back.
It's
Because
good.
it's going to be a big binge about the
It is.
X-Files.
X-Files, because the X-Files is coming back and we're excited about it.
Woo!
Yes, and so we're going to have a big X-Files binge. You can get all the info probably by the time this podcast is posted
Yeah.
at tvbinges.com, and you can read all my writing there, and also follow me on Twitter at Kyle Loves TV.
Yay! As for me, well, you guys know you can listen to the podcast on, or no, you can follow the podcast on Twitter at you
I
got.
hope they're listening to the podcast.
I really do hope they're listening to the podcast. But you can follow it on Twitter at YouGotGotPod for all the latest updates. And you are also more than welcome to shoot me an email at YouGotGotPodcast@gmail.com. And if you feel so inclined, please follow me, my personal Twitter, at Sophia M. Porter, where I spar quite often with Kyle about Stannis-relating things. And I tweet out pictures of me and Carly doing ridiculous things. It's been quite a season, and thanks so much to all of you listeners who hung around and listened to me and many others chat about a show that makes so many of us feel so many things. Sometimes I feel like we're all gonna burst. Until next time, everyone, and remember, the night is dark, but full of Davos.